everybody, Brandon from Humphrey's Barbecue. We're going to be talking about when to replace your gasket today. Are you seeing smoke leakage from your doors? If you are, it might be time to change your gasket. You know, there's a couple of different things that make it so that the gasket needs to be replaced. So the first one would be if you've adjusted your gasket all the way in and you run out of door latch adjustment. The second one would be, you know, if you get like brown sugar, melted brown sugar, or anything like that, anything that can harden the gasket. If it gets hard, it won't adjust for you anymore. So, you know, smoke's leaking out. That's basically what you want to look for, is smoke leaking out. That's going to tell you which way you need to go, whether it's replacing gasket or latch adjustment. So that's kind of what we're going to go over today, is when to replace the gasket on your smoker. You know, make sure to subscribe to our videos. And any of the tools that we use in today's video will be linked in the description section of the video. Hi everybody, we're going to show you guys how to replace the gasket on your doors. I'm going to start by letting you know kind of what you need. A good thing to have is some high temp silicone. You're also going to want some of our rope gasket, a can of PV washer is usually pretty handy. So we also have these little spring tune-up kits, which is going to come with a small tube of silicone and a small can of PV blaster. If you have a larger cooker, your kit will have a bigger tube of silicone in it. So I'm going to go a step-by-step process on how to do this. So the first thing you're going to want to do is, I like to take something that's going to keep my clean surface clean for after I'm done getting my old gasket off. So I'm just going to set this piece of cardboard on here. Then you're going to want to take the door off. So I'm going to start with the top door, because you have to do these doors in a series. You have to do the top door first and then the bottom door in order to get them off. So these bullet hinges that we have on our standard cookers, they just slide off. So all you're going to do is wiggle the door and it'll come right up off. So the important thing is to make sure you do not lose these brass washers. We do have more, so if you need some, you know, you can always call up and order. So I'm going to take both of my washers and I'm going to leave them right on top of my smoker. That way I know where they are when it's time. So I'm going to flip this door over. You can see the gasket's pretty warm here, so what we're going to do is we're going to take it off and replace it. You start down here in this corner, and you're going to peel that up. Now, it's going to peel a little hard. That's just because of the silicone that's already on there. You're just going to peel it all the way off, all the way around. And then that gasket, you can throw right in the trash. So the next thing I'm going to do is, I have a razor knife. I'm going to pop it open. I'm going to take my blade out. That is one of the easiest things to scrape this gasket off with. There are some other options. You see, I'm just scraping off the silicone here. The residual that's left over from the gasket being on there. See, I have that surface all scraped off nice. And you can see this is still pretty, you know, there's some loose, I would call it grease. Could be a little bit of creosote. Now you can scrape that with the knife blade, kind of like that. That is a little time consuming, but it is a good way to get that stuff off. Another way would be if you have a sander on hand, you know, like a little palm sander, you can take that with some like 80 grit sandpaper, anything like that, kind of sand that all off. Another option would be a grinder. A grinder works pretty well. You don't want anything super aggressive, you know, like a 60 or an 80 grit on that would work good too. Probably not a hard wheel, more like a flat disc, which is going to look like sandpaper. It's little pieces of sandpaper. Something like that. Another option is they do have scrapers that have blades like this in it, and you can scrape it all off of that. I mean, we have our own little homemade tool here. It's just a piece of rod with one of those blades welded on. You can see that scrapes really easy. So now that I have all of that scraped off, I'm just going to get it off my door. And if you don't like getting dirty, you might want some rubber gloves for this job. It is a little bit dirty of a job. So now that I have that all ground off, I mean, it does not need to be perfect. That new gasket will go over the top of it, so don't think you have to get it exact. It's one of those things, close is good. I'm going to pull my piece of cardboard out now. So my cardboard was clean when I started. It's going to help protect the powder coat on my door, along with the clean surface afterwards is going to help with that. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my gasket and I'm actually going to pre-run it around the door. And that's going to give me kind of a layout of what I need. So if you order a kit, it's going to have gasket in it.
Can you say 4 both doors?
4 both doors. So that gasket's going to be there. What I like to do is I'll run it. So this bottom corner on the hinge side is where I like my meeting to be. Mostly because, you know, it's just a better spot for it. Smoke rises, so it's just better to go in the lower corner. This side squeezes the tightest from the beginning, so it's better to have your meeting here because it's going to try to pinch those two together. So now that I have my gasket run around, I like to keep it a little loose. That way I have plenty to work with. Now I'm going to take my high temp silicone. I have a big tube, so it's inside of a silicone gun. You will need a caulking gun in order to do the tube. If you have the little bottle, like this one here, you won't need that. That one is just a squeeze tube. The best way to do that is to roll it from the bottom. There's already a partial fold there. If you continue to roll that up, it'll keep pushing it out. And I do recommend using the nozzle that comes with it. It's going to help you. So now I'm just going to run my silicone around the door in a small zigzag pattern, staying pretty close to the edge because I want my gasket pretty much all the way out there. So now that I have my silicone run, I'm going to start down in this corner. And I'm going to take this piece and I am going to lay it over the top of that silicone. Now you can see I have it hanging down a little by down here. That's fine. Because what you're going to want to do is, like, this gasket can be compressed and pushed together to make it a little bit thicker, which is a good thing, and you want that. So I'm just going to work it all the way down the door. Now this is the part that a lot of people struggle with. Now I'm getting ready to round this corner. Now if I have already cut my gasket, the problem is I may run out, which is going to pull on my corners. So what I do is I leave my gasket still attached. So when you usually try to do your biggest door first. That way you can get the necessary gasket. Our kits usually have a little extra in them anyway, so you should be fine on gasket. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece and I'm holding my corner so it stays over further. Now I'm going to lay my gasket down on top and I'm going to push it into this corner. You can see there's a large radius here. Now I can take that radius out simply by pushing the gasket into that corner, which is going to give you a more square corner. Now I'm going to work my gasket toward that corner, allowing it to be larger than normal. So now I have a nice square corner. It goes all the way out to the edge and I don't have to worry about it missing this portion of my face frame. Because if radius is around there, there's a chance it could hit here, which is going to give you an air opening in this corner. That's really important down in that firebox door because you don't want the extra air blowing through there like that. So I'm going to do the same thing in this corner. I'm going to hold it right on the corner, and I'm going to bring my gasket down, and I'm just going to work it back to the corner to square my corner up. Come down, do the same thing here. You can see I got my fingers pinched on the gasket again. I'm just gonna come around the corner. Just gonna work it back through, make sure it's on my silicone. Now, this is one of the more important steps, is when you get to the point of cutting it off. So I just have a pair of shears. Scissors will work. Just make sure you have sharp scissors so you don't end up with a lot of frays. We typically like to use shears here just because they do tend to cut the gasket rope a little better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it on the other side of the piece of gasket that I already have run here. And there's a reason that I'm going to do that. So I'm going to cut it like that. Now you can see it's still a little long, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to work it back into that other portion of the gasket. That way I can make sure this is a tight connection, as tight as I can possibly get it with the rope gasket. And that is it. And then you're going to want to let that set up for at least a couple of hours. You'll know, because you can pull on the gasket and it will stay. Don't pull too hard, just be kind of gentle. You'll be able to feel if it's sticking or not. Once it's stuck, you're good to go. So I'm going to show you the part of putting the door back on. I'm not actually going to put this door on, but it's where your small can of PB Blaster is going to come in handy. So you're going to pop the cap, you're going to put this little straw on, it just makes it easier. You're going to take that straw and you're going to put it down inside of your bullet hinge, and you're going to squirt probably about a quarter of the way up that hinge. You don't want a whole lot of that. It is going to foam when you spray it, so it'll foam to the top, but you don't want too much gasket inside of too much PB Blaster inside of there, because the more PB Blaster that's in there, the less it's going to want to drop in there without making a mess. It will drop eventually, it just takes a couple minutes to swings back and forth. But that quarter of the way full is going to be your best bet. It's going to allow that to drop right in, and it'll fully lubricate the inside of that hinge. Please make sure to check out our next video to learn how to adjust your latches.